Hello, I'm Riley, and this is the Diegetic Advancement Podcast. Hello, I'm Riley, and today we're going to try something new, but first we have a call from Jason. Take it away.
Hey Riley, Jason here. Just want to say enjoyed your latest episode, the Pig Swill episode. Yeah, I don't think you need a lot of rules. I think it's more important to understand the setting and for the players and GM to understand the setting, and you can get by with, really minimal rules when it comes down to it. Now, down the road, if you're talking a long-term campaign, more rules help keep the world consistent. They help with how you approach character advancement, things like that, even if your character doesn't mechanically advance, like, say, Traveler. But for a one-shot or just a short game, a couple sessions, you can get by with really, really minimal rules and still have a wonderful time, I think. So, obviously, some people enjoy the interaction with the rules, and that's a big part of their enjoyment of the game. So for those folks, it might not be as enjoyable to just have a D6 roll be the the sum of the rules. But if the idea of role playing and hanging out with your friends and just using the rules as a way to handle questions is the key, that doesn't even make sense anymore. My brain is gone. But anyway, I think you know where I'm going. So I would agree with you. The setting is much more important, and the understanding, the players and the GM being on the same sheet of music with the setting is much more important than the rules themselves, in my opinion.
Thanks for the call, Jason. Well said, and I totally agree. Highlight some great points. One, interacting with the rules can be fun in and of itself. I think that's really important. Two, the setting is important, but it can be hard to build a shared understanding, and even harder to keep that understanding consistent over long-term play. You can hand out a sort of, an appendix N, for lack of a better word, for things that can help people get on the same page. Oh, it's like this movie, it's like that book, but everyone's got different ideas of what that is. And yeah, it can drift over time. And so having a rules framework to help with that, I think, is the other important side of that coin, right? And I think you can communicate setting through rules as well. You definitely get a pretty strong idea of implied setting by reading through the AD&D, DMG, or similar works. Again, thank you very much for the call. I really appreciate it. I hope you're well. And with that, let's jump into the main segment. Okay, today I'm going to be starting a series of episodes aimed at helping me focus my discussion of various RPG topics and also be an interesting creative outlet. I'll very likely still do my regular content, but if I can get organized, those shows will have a format much closer to my original pilot episode. Short and focused segments where I talk about my gaming, random RPG topics, RPG product reviews, and of course shouting out other content. But there'll likely still be shows where I just talk nonsense as usual. You'll already know the title for this new show, given you've clicked the episode, but this series will be titled 6 Turns Down Under. The meaning will hopefully become clear by the end of the show. So if you like this episode, you'll be able to find others like it in the future. Okay, so what am I actually going to be doing in these episodes? Well, I will be taking a look at a range of RPG rules and topics through the lens of playing a solo dungeon crawling RPG. I think there will be a lot of interesting problems and discussion points that will emerge from this attempt, and I'll be able to frame discussions around these. For example, the first problem that you'll want to tackle when you start solo role-playing is what game system to use. And I'm going to start with an easy answer: OD&D via Swords and Wizardry Complete. The second problem, specifically to solo dungeon crawling, is how will you generate your dungeon? And so that's what I'll be covering today and in future episodes, before moving on to other topics like how to stock, how to handle monster lairs, traps, special rooms, and others. Now, if you have feedback or suggestions on how to generate dungeons, please call in. I'd love to hear from you and continue the discussion on the show. Details for that are in the show notes, and of course, if you want to send me some feedback but don't want it played on the air, that is fine too. Just let me know when you send it. I can think of 3 broad categories for how to generate a dungeon for solo play. 1, random generation from tables, like what's presented in the strategic review or Appendix A of the AD&D DMG. 2, using geomorphs to build sections at a time, like 4 Against Darkness or Axebane's Deck of Dungeons, or 3, using a completed dungeon either from a module or something pre-drawn but not stocked, like from Dyson Logos. Now, like everything I say on the show, there's no one size fits all, but I've decided to go for the first option, primarily because I think it's an interesting opportunity to practice the role of the mapper. I'll link an excellent video from GFC on how to communicate between the GM and mapper, and I'll be using that as the basis for my play. Each role or series of roles effectively gives instructions that you'd pass to the mapper, in this case, me, the person playing this solo game, to draw. Now, as GFC recommends in that video, you should start with simple shapes so that you and the mapper can learn the system before moving on to more complicated maps. And so I'll be doing that also. And for this reason, I find the strategic review or Appendix A system a bit too cumbersome and complicated, at least to start, as there's quite a few roles to make and there's complicated corridors and room shapes to draw. Instead, I stumbled upon an article from the Dungeoneer magazine, issue 19, titled Dungeon Generator by Charles L. Evans, a nice set of tables for use in creating AD&D type solo adventures. And I'll be using this with some minor modifications to play through, at least for today. Okay, so let's run through what I've ended up with, at least to start. Firstly, not covered in the article is a starting room. For simplicity's sake, I will start in a square 30 by 30 foot room with a door in the center of each wall. The southern door will be the exit to the surface, and the others start unexplored. Anyway, moving on to the tables. I've created 6, and I've played slightly with the odds and results, converting the original tables from D100 to D20 mostly. I've removed results that I would count as stocking, so things like traps, monsters, etc. And I've added chambers to the corridors table rather than behind doors, or it's still behind doors, but my understanding of chambers are that they're just larger and have no doors, so it was odd to see no ability to get a doorless chamber. Okay, so we'll start with our main table, our sort of periodic check, which we'll roll as we explore corridors. Table 1A, corridor. We roll a d20. On 1 through 5, the corridor continues straight, and we roll on table 1B. 6 through 8, the corridor continues straight but narrows back to 10 foot if we're in a 20-foot corridor, and we roll on table B. On a 9, the corridor continues straight but widens 10 feet to 20 feet if we were at 10 foot, and we roll on table 1B. On a 10, there's a chamber, and we roll on table 3A. At 11 through 12, the corridor turns left, and we roll again, this time just with a d10. On a 13 or 14, the corridor turns right, we roll again, d10. 15, the corridor branches left, we roll again with a d10. 16, it branches right, roll again, d10. 17, the corridor comes to a T intersection, and we roll again twice with a d10. 18, the corridor comes to a cross intersection, we roll again 3 times with a d10, and a 19 or 20, we come to a dead end and we roll on table 2. Okay, table 1B, which is the contents of the corridor. On a 1 through 10, there is nothing. On 11 through 13, there is a door on the left, and we roll on table 2. On a 14 through 16, there is a door on the right, and we roll table 2. 17 or 18, door on both sides, rolling on table 2. 19, there's stairs down, and 20, there are stairs up. Table 2 is what's behind a door. On a 1 through 10, there is a room, and we go to table 3A. On 11 through 12, there is a chamber, and we roll on table 3A. On a 13 through 20, there is a corridor, and we go back to table 1A, rolling a d10. Okay, table 3A is room and chamber width, which is the left and the right of the door. On a 1 through 10, we get a 20 or 30 foot, and we go to 3B. We go to 3B on all of these results. On 11 through 14, it's a 30 foot or 40 foot. 15 or 16, 40 or 50. 17 or 19, 50 or 70. 20 is 60 and 100. The first number being the room width and the second being a chamber width. Of course, we then move to 3B, and all these results then move to table 4. On a 1 through 10, we get a 10 or 20 foot. 11 through 14, 20 or 40 foot, 15 or 16, 30 through 50 foot, 17 or 19, 40 through 70 foot, 20, 50 and 90 foot, and move to table 4, as I said. Table 4 is exits. On a 1 to 6, there are no exits. 7 to 10, door on the opposite wall, 11 through 13, door on the left wall, 14 through 16, door on the right wall, 17, door on opposite and left walls, 18, door on opposite and right walls, 19, door on left and right walls, and 20, door on opposite, left, and right walls. There's currently no way to get multiple doors on the same wall once you're in a room, I suppose. Okay, so this is definitely not the final version, but it'll be my starting point. So let's jump into the section which gives the show its name. Let's play out 6 turns down under. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be rolling and then calling as if I was the GM, so feel free to map along and send me your completed maps, and we can compare results. Now, we're not going to be encountering anything at this stage, monsters, traps, room contents, so this will just be mapping. We're going to set a fairly slow movement rate because of this. Let's just say we're laden down, and we have a base movement rate of 6, giving us a 120 foot of movement per turn. So let us begin in our starting room, which I'll describe again, beginning in the center of the page. The party enters a room from the southern door. Walls go 10 foot west, 10 foot east, and the room is 30 foot east to west, 30 foot north to south. There are doors in the center of the west, north, and east walls. The party moves to the northern door and opens it, revealing a corridor which leads 10 foot north and branches west. The western branch goes 10 foot, and the northern branch goes 10 foot into darkness. The party moves 30 feet to the end of the northern branch, and the corridor turns west, continuing west for another 10 foot. The party rounds the corner, and the corridor turns right and continues north 10 foot. The corridor then branches west again. Both branches continue 10 feet, and the party again moves to the northern branch, which marks the end of turn 1. The corridor continues 10 foot and ends. There is a door on the eastern portion of the wall. The party opens the door, revealing a corridor which goes 10 foot east, and then comes to a T-junction. The corridor goes 10 foot north and south. The party again decides to go north, and the corridor continues 10 foot before ending. Now, heading back down the southern corridor, it continues an additional 10 feet with a door on the eastern wall and turns east, continuing 10 foot. The party opens the door, revealing a 30-foot corridor heading east. Along the northern wall are 2 doors, one at 20 foot and the other at 30 foot. This marks the end of turn 2. The party enters the easternmost door, revealing a 10-foot length of corridor heading north. It then branches east. The eastern branch goes 10 foot, and the northern goes an extra 20, then turns west. The party moves down the northern passage, which leads 10 foot west, then turns north. The party continues following the corridor, turns west, and goes 10 foot, and comes to a dead end. Marking turn 3, the party backtracks to where the corridor branches east and finds the corridor turns north and comes to a dead end after 20 feet. Backtracking back to the door marks turn 4. Back in the corridor outside the door, the corridor widens to the south to 20 feet and continues east for 20 feet and comes to a T-junction with 10-foot wide corridors extending 10 foot north and 10 foot south. There is a door on the southern wall at 20 feet. The party enters this door, finding another corridor leading 10 foot south before coming to a T-junction, with corridors heading 10 foot west and another T-junction to the east. The party goes to this second T-junction and finds the northern corridor links to the previous corridor, but follows the eastern corridor, which goes 30 feet south. There is a door on the eastern wall at 10 foot and a door on the western wall at 20 foot. The corridor runs into a chamber with walls going 10 foot west and 10 foot east, and the room is 30 foot wide and 50 foot long, or 30 foot east to west and 50 foot north to south. There is a corridor exiting the chamber in the center of the eastern wall, and this marks turn 5. Of course, the party must rest for turn 6. Okay, so unsurprisingly, I have some things I'd like to change and improve. I struggle to remember to roll on the corridor contents after generating the actual corridor, as I was rolling 10 foot at a time. The distribution of results wasn't perfect either. I think I'll need to go back to D100 to get it to work a little bit nicer, add more results and make some results a little bit more rare. And I think I'll just default that turns, branches, etc. generate a length of corridor rather than rolling the D10 to guarantee the corridor at those turns. Probably a few other things, but I'll go away and play a bit more. And when we come back, I'll let you know what I've changed. Despite all that, I found it quite fun to draw the map and roll it on the tables. And surprisingly, trying to call the map for the podcast was quite fun too. Well, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, check the show notes for the things I've discussed today, for my contact details, for Jason's details. If you want to share your feedback just like Jason has, please do. Additionally, the map that I drew, the tables I used, and a mapping reference that I drew based on the GFC video are linked, so check those out if you're interested. Again, I really appreciate you listening. Bye for now. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can reach me via Spotify, SpeakPipe, Discord, or email. Those details, along with everything I've talked about today, are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.